You are in for a real treat with this episode, especially if you're at a crossroad or you're doubting whether it's possible, or you're at a point where you're thinking, I might have to give up. How embracing the flip side is the path to everything you want. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Bliss Movement, a podcast for big hearted, driven women daring to be great who know that this starts by pouring love into themselves first. I'm Dr. Fee. I'm passionate about helping women to stop tuning out and burning out, but to tune within, reconnect with your heart, feel lit up, follow your bliss, and live life on your terms. So, get ready to expand your life beyond what you thought was possible when it comes to healing, wealth, love, purpose, and leadership. Have you ever been struck by inspiration and possibility to only then find yourself hitting a wall of resistance just moments later? Whether it's that decision, I'm going to take a leap, I'm going to start my own business, or finally I'm going to leave my toxic job behind me, or perhaps it's that I'm ready to nourish my body as a temple, or I am so deserving of love and connection and intimacy. I am ready for the next level relationship, soulmate. And when you tap into soul guidance, you can feel so unstoppable. It's like this massive wave, a tsunami of energy that just fuels you and, like, oh my gosh, expands your thinking. And you can feel all like goosebumps and the shivers and, oh, I feel so alive and electric in your body. And then after a moment, maybe a couple of days, a week if you're lucky, inevitably you will hit resistance. And this is where you might spiral into doubt or have fear or be faced with the what ifs and how is this all going to happen and the timing and all the questions. Your mind gets onto it, and then you start to talk yourself out of it. And I don't know if that's really actually possible for me in my situation. No one has ever done that in my family. Or you start to compare yourself to other people and focus on all the ways that you're not like them. And you put yourself down, and before you know it, you're about to give up before you've even get started. And you start to doubt your intuition. You start to question, like, was that just crazy talk? And then you are creating like separation, disconnecting from the greatest truth within you and your greatest source of power. And so, as an example, I mean, I am your living example of when this of this experience. Just recently, I am in a beautiful community, and I have a number of mentors. One who was helping me to tap into what is possible for the Bliss movement. And at the start of March, I connected with this very strong guidance and feeling and vision of like 1,000 women in the Bliss Sisterhood within 12 months. Oh my gosh, that is so incredible. I was lit up, exhilarated. It was like, it is so possible. Of course, it's going to happen. Imagine, like, we are already getting such phenomenal results right now, and think of the massive ripple in the world that will happen, and we get to have fun doing this work, pouring love into ourselves first. And oh my gosh. And I was just like, of course I want to do that. Like, I've got 15 years of experience in transformative work and healing for myself and thousands of other people. I have got so much to give. I'm ready. And so that day I made a declaration to my community, like, every day I'm going to jump in and offer daily coaching, inspiration, tools, strategies, behind the scenes. I'm going to get real with you. I'm going to talk about my own experiences and how I'm navigating them, and just create this profound depth of intimacy and connection, which is so rich in a sisterhood. And I announced it on social media. So I'm committed now. And then comes the next day. And I press record and I start to talk, and it's like stumble, block, heading off in this tangent, having to press stop, press record, press stop a billion times, trying and it wasn't flowing. I was getting more and more frustrated and just filled with angst. And then I started to spiral into future suffering, like, oh my gosh, if it's going to take this amount of time, this amount of energy every single day, how am I going to find time to do anything else? Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, sweetheart, You're facing the flip side. Lean in. Stop leaning out. Tune in. Don't tune out. Drop the story. And in that moment, being curious, it's like, what is happening for me? It's like, oh, here's my resistance coming up. Here is the flip side of this massive, beautiful vision that I've been gifted, the possibility. And I'm taking steps towards that because for me, it was so clear. Daily coaching, pouring more into my clients is the necessary inspired action for me to take to embrace that vision and to receive 1,000 women in the Bliss Sisterhood within 12 months. Okay. And so I was like, right, pulling up my sleeves. Clearly, hello, old friend, perfectionism. You're here. Fancy meeting you here. And in that, I was just like breathing, regulating, and utilizing practices and tools to really embrace this chunky part of me, the part of me that was like getting frustrated because it wasn't working, wasn't good enough, the pressure. When you are experiencing perfectionism, right? Like you can't, it just is this whole sense of it's not enough, I'm not enough, it's not good enough. And you end up just feeling so exhausted and frustrated, and it just ruins everything, right? It sucks the joy out of the moment and the experience. And so for me, to work through it, the only way through it is to lean in and embrace it fully and love that part of me back into whole, that layer of the onion. This is the next layer of the onion. It's not my first rodeo with perfectionism. And so I was then able to show up vulnerable, show up with this story in this process and share it so from my heart to my clients. Me like, this is what is happening. This is what's come to me. And in March, we've been focusing on Magnificent March. And we've started off by like, we get to make life and its inevitable challenges magnificent. And it's such a powerful truth because truly, success, peace, bliss is our capacity to hold the full duality of our human experience. And I'm going to explore what that means in a little bit because I understand jargon and the difficulty of plugging into my world. Having been a doctor, it's something that I've been very conscious of. And now being a spiritual mentor and transformation coach, there's a whole nother set of jargon. And I want you to ensure that you feel heard and seen and, present, and that you feel like you belong. But that's what today's conversation is about, is the flip side and polarity and duality. And so here I am as a living, breathing example. I'm in the classroom and get to share my story of this difficulty and doubts and perfectionism. And of course, it just opened the doorway to such, for my clients to feel held and seen, because it's their experience too. A lot of them have their own perfectionistic tendencies and battle that they face, and how it jeopardizes their own success and how they get to show up and enjoy life too, because of this underlying energies of I'm not enough, of value and, and worthiness. And so it just was so profound. On the other side of it is my clients celebrating and feeling like receiving such a depth of value. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is so wonderful. I can share. Here's the 10 steps to overcoming perfectionism. But to really share, this is the classroom I've been in, and this is how I've led myself through it, and this is what's available for you too when you use these tools. That's taking knowledge and transmuting and transforming it and evolving it to wisdom. And then in sharing of wisdom, profound shifts happen, because it's a different, and I'm sure you get that. I'm sure you've had people give you advice, and you can tell that it comes from their intellect versus their heart versus lived experience. It's sort of a sense of do what I say, not what I do. They're not actually walking their talk. And so that was the gift of me leaning into the flip side. So let's have a little chat about what the flip side is. And simply, it's the polarity, it's the two sides of the coin. It's the duality, or the swing of the pendulum. The pendulum must swing to the left and then swing to the right. And so when you think about it, I'm going to invite you to think about a time in your life where you felt courageous, where you discovered such a such a sense of strength and courage and confidence to rise, be like the phoenix that rises from the ashes wearing nothing but her strength. I love that quote. And that experience, what you will discover is with that is the duality, the contrast, the polarity, the flip side of fear. Fear, when we learn to lean in to embrace fear, fuels courage. You can't have one without the other. You cannot have courage if you don't feel fear. And it's like shame and bravery. Shame is the greatest source of your power. And so being brave to truly embrace your shame, they go together too. And it's also, if we think about security, wealth, often, and it's just look at reality. If you've ever set up your business, often there's a period of time where you have to invest in your business or invest in yourself. It's like we go to university, like for many years for me, and it's like you invest a lot of money in yourself to finish with a qualification. So in that, there is the investment, and depending on how you see it, that debt, that investment, the spending of money could spiral you into lack and insecurity. So the flip side of security is lack and insecurity. And so if we can learn to embrace that, so shift our perspective, learn to lean in and really meet the energy of that, feel our feelings so that we feel differently and liberate our energy from that experience, it actually fuels our dreams. So fuels our security, fuels our bravery, fuels our courage as an example, so that we can, rather than sabotage it, if we say, I don't want to feel shame, I don't want to feel fear, I don't want to, and we do say that, don't we? I was like, I don't want to feel like resistance, I don't want to feel angst, I don't want to have perfectionism and unworthiness coming up here, I don't have time for that. Being very human. And but the thing is, if we resist it, it actually does sabotage us. And I do a lot of training about sabotage, so perfectionism, people pleasing, procrastination, depression, anxiety. These are all symptoms of deeper core issues, wounds, and us not knowing, not being tapped into our hearts, not knowing who we are, what we need, and how to give ourselves what it is that we need. And this is what I teach in Heart of Bliss, which is the second part of my Burnout to Bliss process that you can access in my Expanding Bliss program. And it's phenomenal. And it really is what I wish I knew growing up. And it's been the thing that has just supported me in such profound waves of healing, but also embracing each turn of the spiral, greater levels of wealth and success, because you'll experience, we tell ourselves, I will feel safe and secure when I get this certain amount of money. And then you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm scared about losing it. And that could be love. Oh, I'll feel so happy when I get myself this beautiful, gorgeous partner. And then you get it and it's like, oh, but now I'm scared about losing him or her. And that is how, that is the process of growth. And it's normal and natural that at each stage we will be facing new issues and things that we didn't know existed within us rises to the surface so that we can love it back into whole and continue to grow and expand and evolve and become, the greatest version of ourselves, potential for our life. And so this is so, so important to understand the role of the flip side. And we can be, if we look at shame, I mean, this is probably one of the trickiest emotions and experiences to work with. Who here, put your hands up, who here wants to feel shame? No way. It is the hardest and heaviest and most depleting, contracting, limiting experience vibration that we can have as a human. And this is based on, it's a strong statement, and it's based on the work that David Hawkins, who's a psychiatrist, he's now left his body in the 70s. He did all this amazing work on the impact of our emotions on our body, on the strength of our body. And he did a lot of studies. He published a lot of studies around kinesiology. He was one of the so contributed to that movement in such a big way, brought so many gifts to the world. And what he showed, and this is the vibrational scale of consciousness, is that shame is the most depleting, weakening, heavy, damaging emotion that has an impact on the body. It weakens us. And, if you think about anger, the good thing about anger compared to shame is that there's a fuel in it, there's a fire in it. It's like, I'm going to fight, I'm going to run, I'm going to I'm going to say what I need to say. I need to be, I want change. That's anger. There's an energy behind it. But when it comes to shame, it's like, oh my gosh, you start to feel weak, and in fact your body starts to flex and you start to take on like the fetal position. Even it's like that weakening. And so in that you lose a lot, like it binds a lot of your personal energy. And so if we can learn to embrace that, that is what I mean, that it is becomes the source of your greatest power. And it can fuel your dreams when you learn to not pull out of those moments. Because if I say to you, remember a time where you felt ashamed, you'd be like, no, 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 I'm not going there, I'm not going there. And I say that because that's been my experience of, in my process of healing, tapping into certain memories that I had, experiences that I had when I was burnt out, where I felt so humiliated because I decompensated as a doctor, and oh my gosh, panic attacks, and oh my gosh. And I was like, whenever I'd try to tune into that memory, I would immediately get this sense of like, no, 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 don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. And it was like, but that was still within me, until I learned how to hold space for myself and be with this energy and this experience, and hold myself, lead myself through it. You can imagine it's like we only have, so imagine this is a sphere of energy around you, and this represents your personal energy, a bubble. And within that, your personal energy, for me, had been bound in this humiliation and shame and disappointment. And it's like this big, black, heavy ick. And I'm just sort of dragging it around with me. It's like just like this, and it does distort my experience in life. And it has a voice. I teach this in Heart of Bliss, where, have you realized that if you feel anxious, there's like an emotional kingdom. Each emotion has its own kingdom. So anxiety has its impact on your physiology. It has its own voice. It feels a certain way. So does shame. Shame has an impact on your body compared to anger, and it has its own voice. I'm no good. Like, if you are in a state of shame, or if you've ever had a friend who's in a state of shame, and that's the lens that they are looking through and receiving through, and you say to them, oh my gosh, you look so beautiful today, what do they hear? They immediately hear a voice that says, oh, she's just saying that because she needs to. Oh, she's just saying that because she's being nice. And that is where you realize, oh, that's just the kingdom, or this experience of shame. And what we get to do is, it's a process of reclamation of our personal power from these experiences. And it's not that we got to get rid of it. It's more about extending a hug or an internal love, and melt it like it's an ocean of love that we bring and pour love into yourself to embrace this and love it. It's like, salt. If you had a handful of salt and you walked out into an ocean, what happens to that salt? It melts, it dissolves. And that's the process of healing. It's like being in that space of shame and holding yourself there, because what you want to do is bounce. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to be there. You want to get up and move around. You want to go eat something, shove food down, drink something, escape, numb out on Netflix, because I don't want to feel that. But actually the process is just embrace the flip side, embrace it. And as you breathe, all that energy that had been held in that ickiness of shame is now liberated. You will feel lighter on the other side. It's like you've taken off the tight shoe after a big night of dancing. It's like, oh my gosh, I can breathe again. It's like releasing the corset. It's like taking off a tight second skin. It's like, oh, I feel liberated. I feel free. I feel free. And now you have more of that energy. It's like you're cleaner on the inside. And it's not to say that you're dirty, it's just like you feel lighter, sparklier, and you have more energy and power behind you so that you can align with the inspiration and the soul guidance that you receive that is best for you. And you have the strength to take the steps no matter what you're facing. And so that is the joy of understanding what the flip side is. We can't avoid it. It is the human experience. And just to touch on briefly, and it is something that I teach about in Heart of Bliss. It's such a rich course. This is a course all about tapping into your heart. And as I said, like, who am I? What are my needs? How do I give to myself in the most loving, kind, compassionate way so that I can fuel my dreams. I've become unstoppable. I'm tapped into my unstoppable grace, which is a sense of like, I've got this. You're the greatest advocate for yourself. And it's just honoring your human experience. It's rather than like put on a happy face. It's like, let's get tapped into my heart, face all the things, like tune in and love myself back to whole again, like love all these unlovable bits, become more unconditionally loving for myself. And so then you have a heart full that of course just flows into your children and your partner and your colleagues and even the like really tricky people in your life. You become way more compassionate and loving because you've got less within you that can get triggered because you've already loved it back to whole. So it's a good course, or I should say transformative experience. And in that, one of the key foundational pieces is understanding what our emotional nature is, because we become very conditioned in our upbringing, from our family, from culture, from society, to look at certain emotions as bad. Like, oh, I can't feel angry. I shouldn't feel sad. Like, no one likes a sad person. I have to feel happy and lit up and positive and all of these, you know, culturally appropriate emotional responses, right? But actually, being a human, we have a full spectrum of emotions. And as an analogy, remember when you're younger, and if you've got kids, you've probably got plenty of these sets around, but you know, the beautiful sets of pencils, coloring in pencils. And it's like you've got 5 yellows and 5 oranges and 5 reds and browns and blacks and different shades of greens and blues. And it's like, oh, you know, some of us, it's really annoying if people don't put it back in the right place. But if you can imagine, that's our emotional spectrum. It is normal and healthy to have, like, we have different feelings, and jealousy and shame and anger and sadness and fear is normal and beautiful. Yes, they're in the browns. They're the brown colors and the black colors and the gray colors and the yellows and the oranges and the pinks. I mean, that's joy and happiness and love. Of course, I get it. You know, it's okay to desire feeling those emotions, but we got to understand that our emotional nature is like an emotional pendulum. If we say, I'm not going to feel sad, I don't want to feel angry, I don't want to feel ashamed, I don't want to feel grief, then the pendulum cannot swing on that side. And when you block the pendulum from swinging, how far can it swing on the other side? It can't. And so what you experience is a numbing of emotions. Hello, depression. Hello, apathy. Hello, disconnection. Hello, I don't know who I am. Hello, I can't make a decision. I feel doubtful. Excuse me. So that is this numbing process because we are disconnected from our human emotional nature, and we're not allowing ourselves to experience the full flip side, the full duality, the full contrast and polarity of what is our human emotional nature. And if you question this, just look at a toddler. A toddler is the example of our emotional nature. One moment we're happy, sad, frustrated, on the floor having a tantrum, jumping up and down, telling us we're, you're my favorite person, mummy. And then, we're no different. Our emotional nature is no different to that. What changes, and this is what creates the problems, is that we start to develop our frontal cortex and the rational, logical, reasoning mind, thank goodness, so that we can, manage ourselves so that we're not throwing a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket, although there are some adults who do that. And so we can, as we're starting to do this, then we start to create judgments about what is accepted and not accepted. And this is the process of us then disconnecting from what is normal and healthy, which is our emotional range and spectrum, and experiencing the full colors of all these beautiful, of all of our beautiful feelings and emotions. And so this is a good foundational step, because then we get to undo and unlearn how we speak to ourselves and how we feel our feelings and hold space for ourselves. And that is how we then start with different tools and strategies, learn to embrace these parts of us, like I said, the shame and the heavy emotions and the things that we want to just jump out of, and how we can support ourselves in uncertainty, because inherent in change is the unpredictable chaos feeling. Like, it's like the storm before the calm. That is the chaos. That's the flip side. If you desire a deep sense of peace and calm and centeredness and freedom and groundedness, then learning how to embrace the contrast of that is exactly what's required. And as a quick example, in our Expanding Bliss program, which is where you can access Heart of Bliss that I've been talking about, I offer these incredible hot seat coaching. So we do at least 3 sessions each month, and it's where you can come and receive coaching from me. And together it's all about taking things from the information, but incorporating and implementing it in your life. And in real time, right there, we experience laser healing and resolution of an experience for someone, and everyone benefits in the group, because we're all very connected, all very the same, but the energy is often playing out for all of us. And it can be very, very profound, where you get what you need rather than what you want, and then you walk away forever changed. And it's this beautiful experience of community and interconnectedness as well. And one of my clients were talking about the flip side, and her celebration, it was big. And then she was like, I actually need some support with this, because for so long, Fee, the last, months after severe, severe burnout, I've been experiencing such centeredness and groundedness and feeling so stable and strong and lit up. And like, she had like left her relationship and was making these amazing plans, and being very unconventional, following her heart, and being a doctor, living her own path, and making these big decisions to leap. And she's been feeling unstoppable, and then coming for support, because what she's been noticing is that there is this instability and busy mind and feeling unstable, feeling ungrounded. And I was just like, sweethearts, that's the flip side. Remember the pendulum, it's got a swing. So your capacity for more of that calm, more of that groundedness, is how you lean into this experience of feeling unstable, and the energy of insecurity and being in your head and chaos and anxiety and whatever else that you're feeling right there. And so I led her through this process. She was like, I get it, Fee. I get this. I've got it. All right. She just knew it. She could feel it. And so once we allow the pendulum, like, just accept this is the experience. For her, it's like that sense of, when you've got something and it feels so good and you just never want to lose it. But that fear of losing it actually contributes to the flip side. It's like at the top of a Ferris wheel, it's like, oh my gosh, this was so good. You're heading up, 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 up. And then there's another process of growth, and you're going to have to come down, and like, you have to go with the Ferris wheel. There's no point to jump over the seats and keep trying to stay up the top. You got to just learn to go down and go in and go through what is coming up for you, the flip side, the duality, the contrast, whatever life is triggering within you. A challenge is often will bring up, it feels like a problem, because it actually brings up an emotional response within you. And so you can tune in to that to resolve that, because that's the gift of life. That's another conversation that we get to continue on next time. And so for her, I led her through the process, and this is the joy of having a bliss toolbox. And it is the process, because once you embrace the contrast, then all of a sudden she's like, oh, I'm back. Here I am. It's like I feel in my body grounded, connected, and stable. And so I'm sharing that as an example because it is exactly what's required. It helps for you when you're facing the stress or facing the mess or feeling really vulnerable or chaotic to be like, oh, this is happening for me. And that's the joy of having a Bliss toolbox. And what I've noticed after supporting thousands of women over the years is that when we're in a state of survival, we often like batten down the hatches and do what we know, what has worked in the past, or what we have or what we know to do even more. And often what we need is a whole new set of rules and tools and strategies that can guide us at this next level of growth. And for me, how that plays out is I just have this recognition now that where, like, with my mission, with the Bliss movement, with my vision for what I want for the Bliss sisterhood and expanding Bliss, is that for that to happen, it requires me to be pouring love into myself at each step. Because if we're aligned with the primary law of nature, what that shows us is that it is evolution. And there is this contraction, expansion, ebb and flow, and cycles and seasons that happen. And so it's like recognizing that during those phases that are normal, we may need a greater understanding or nuances or new tools or wisdom and support that will help us to continue to expand and grow. And it's something that I love to support my clients with, is like, it's not just about getting out of burnout or getting out of depression, anxiety, or it's like finally figuring out my purpose. It's more than that. It's like, it becomes limitless. It's like, actually, I want to experience more joy, more love, more intimacy. And it's never going to stop because it is limitless. Like, we can't understand what is available really to us at the next level until we're there and we look around, because we just don't have the capacity at this version, like through this lens, to see really what is possible. But if we pour love into ourselves at each step of the way, then we are expanding our vision and our thoughts and our ideas, and that is a real joy. That is how we tap into unimaginable success and wealth. And so that is why the Burnout to Bliss process is really a framework to help you to, at each step, there's an amazing tool in your toolbox so that at the end of the day, you can discern right now in this very moment, how do I feel? What do I need? How do I give that to myself? How can I take care of myself? What is it that I can do for me right now to support myself in the most loving, gentle, kind, compassionate way that will change everything? And that is how we transform our life out there, because we're transforming life in here. And it's so wonderful because everything is an extension of us. And so, of course, our family benefits, of course, our work transforms and we get promotions landing in our lap, and, synchronicity and flow and effortlessness and ease and all of that becomes our new experience. So I'm going to leave you with that. And it's been such a rich conversation. So I encourage you to bookmark this one. Save it for later when you're at that. There'll be inevitable that there'll be times where you're at a crossroad or you're faced with resistance. And I'm just going to encourage you to lean in, embrace the flip side. Let it be the source of your greatest power. Let it fuel your dreams. It is the path towards your unimaginable success and wealth. Have a beautiful day. It has been so beautiful spending this time with you. If you found today's episode inspiring or helpful, please subscribe, give us a good review, and share the love. I invite you to be a part of the Bliss movement. Join our Bliss Sisterhood or apply to join my Expanding Bliss program. The links are in my bio, and I cannot wait to be doing live with you soon. Stay tuned for the next episode, where I'll be sharing more training, stories, strategies, and solutions to guide you towards your bliss.